Amber Stevens stood at the water's edge, staring at something impossible. Two bodies, floating face down, 50 yards out. The 19-year-old black girl brushed a lock from her face, pulse hammering. One adult, one child, both drifting toward the rocks. The October sun broke the horizon, painting the Pacific in blood orange. Beautiful. Terrible timing. Her brain screamed calculations. The riptide here kills people. I'm not a strong swimmer. I haven't been in deep water since I was 12, but that was a kid out there. She grabbed a broken boogie board, kicked off her only shoes. One breath, tasting salt and fear. What Amber didn't know as she ran into those waves was that the man and boy she was about to risk everything for would reveal a truth that would rewrite her entire life. But first, she had to reach them before the current pulled them under for good. 18 hours earlier. Amber woke to the sound of waves crashing against pier pylons, not the worst alarm clock. She opened her eyes to concrete and shadows. Her home, a hidden alcove behind the support pillars of the Santa Monica Pier, tucked where tourists never wandered and security cameras couldn't see. The sleeping bag was donated, church on 5th Street 3 months ago. The backpack holding everything she owned came from the same place. She sat up slowly, joints stiff from the cold. October mornings in Southern California weren't brutal, but sleeping on concrete had a way of settling into your bones. First thing, inventory. She unzipped the inner pocket of her backpack, counted the bills and change, $12.38, down from yesterday. The granola bar she'd saved for breakfast cost $2 at the gas station. She'd skip it, make the money stretch. Her phone was next. Cracked screen, no service for 6 months, but it still held photos. She swiped through them like a morning prayer. Grandmother Dorothy. Smiling in her church dress, standing in front of a house Amber barely remembered. Another photo. Amber at 7 years old, right here on this beach by lighting a sandcastle. Grandmother's hand on her shoulder, both of them laughing at something outside the frame. She touched the silver locket around her neck. Inside, a photo so small she needed good light to see it clearly. A woman's face. Young, beautiful. Amber had her eyes. She locked the phone, tucked it away. Her belongings fit in a shopping cart she kept chained to the pier support. Everything organized, clothes in one plastic bag, toiletries in another, the composition notebook she wrote in every night sealed in a freezer bag to keep it dry. She used a key that technically didn't belong to her anymore, the gym 3 blocks away, where she'd had a membership before the money ran out. The manager hadn't asked for the locker key back when she canceled. Small mercy. Amber walked the boardwalk as the city woke up. Joggers passed her. A few homeless men she recognized nodded. There was an unspoken code here. Acknowledge each other, but don't get close. Everyone had their own survival strategy. She stopped at the beachside cafe, the Sunset Grill. She used to work here. Barista, morning shift, 5 months of steady paychecks, enough to almost get an apartment if she could just save 1 more month's rent. Then the owner found out she was sleeping under the pier. It's not personal, Amber. Insurance liability. If something happened to you and they knew I'd employed you while you were unhoused. 3 weeks ago. Still stung. She watched through the window now. New girl behind the counter, fumbling with the espresso machine. Morning rush building, customers getting impatient. The owner, Mrs. Davis, came out from the back, made eye contact with Amber through the glass, looked away quickly. Amber understood. No hard feelings. Everyone did what they had to do. She moved on to the trash cans along the beach path. Recycling was decent money if you knew where to look. Tourists bought bottled water, drank half, tossed the rest. She could get 5 cents per bottle at the recycling center. 43 bottles later, she had $4.15. Not bad for an hour's work. The public library opened at 10. Amber was waiting at the doors. Inside was warm, quiet, safe. The librarian at the desk, Miss Wilson, smiled when she saw her. "Morning, Amber. Your usual table's open." "Thanks, Miss Wilson." She didn't ask questions. Didn't mention that Amber spent 8 hours here most days. Didn't comment when Amber plugged in her phone to charge, even though technically you needed a library card for that. Small mercies everywhere if you paid attention. Amber opened her laptop. Also technically not hers. It belonged to the library, free to use for 2-hour blocks. But Miss Wilson never enforced the limit. She logged into the free online course she'd been taking. Marine Biology 101, community college level. If she completed it, she'd get a certificate. Wouldn't mean much without actual enrollment, but it was something. She'd gotten her GED at 17, right before everything fell apart, before grandmother Dorothy died, before foster care ended and she aged out at 18 with nowhere to go. The lecture today covered ocean currents and riptides. She took notes in her composition notebook, handwriting careful and neat. A little boy approached her table, maybe 6 years old, clutching a picture book. "Excuse me, do you work here?" Amber smiled. "No, sweetie, but maybe I can help. What are you looking for?" "Books about whales." She stood, led him to the children's section, pulled 3 books about humpback whales and orcas. His face lit up. "Thank you." His mother waved gratefully from across the room. Amber returned to her table, watched the clock. Library closed at 6. As the sun dropped lower, she packed her things, nodded to Miss Wilson. Outside, the beach overlook was crowded with families packing up from their day, kids squealing, parents loading cars with coolers and beach chairs and sandy towels. She used to be one of those kids, before grandmother Dorothy got sick, before the hospital bills ate through everything, before the system took over. Amber didn't let herself feel bitter. Bitterness was expensive. It took energy she couldn't afford to waste. She touched her locket, walked back toward the pier, made dinner on a bench, granola bar she'd finally allowed herself, and an apple from the food bank. As darkness settled, she pulled out her notebook. Wrote by flashlight. Day 128. Still here, still trying. Something's got to give soon. She didn't know how right she was. Amber woke to a sound that didn't belong. 5:48 in the morning. Still dark, but the sky was starting to think about light. The sound came again. A mechanical sputter. Then silence. She crawled out of her sleeping bag, pulse already quickening. Something was wrong. You developed instincts living on the street. This feeling was never wrong. She moved to the edge of the pier supports, looked out at the water. A yacht. Maybe 200 yards offshore, sitting wrong in the water, listing to one side like a drunk trying to stand straight. Through the morning fog, she could make out 2 figures on deck. One tall, gesturing frantically, one small, slumped against the railing. The yacht's name was barely visible in the pre-dawn light, Second Chance 4. The name registered somewhere in the back of her mind. Why 4? How many second chances did one person need? The tall figure was waving now, not at her, at nothing, at the empty beach, at the universe. Then the boat lurched. Hard to the right, like something underneath had given way. Amber heard a shout carry across the water, thin, desperate. 2 splashes in rapid succession. She was running before her brain caught up. Her bare feet hit cold sand and she sprinted toward the waterline. Heart in her throat, eyes scanning the surface. There. 2 people in the water, the tall one struggling, arms thrashing, trying to hold the smaller one's head above the waves. Amber skidded to a stop at the water's edge. The man was wearing business clothes, dress shirt, dark slacks, completely wrong for a morning boat trip. Who wore office clothes on a yacht at dawn? The child wasn't moving. Maybe 8 years old, maybe 10, face pale in the breaking light, and they were drifting, not toward shore, parallel to it. Amber's stomach dropped. She knew this current. Every person who lived on this beach knew it. The Pacific had a riptide here that ran along the coast like a conveyor belt, pulling everything toward the rock jetty 500 yards down. Lifeguards called it the grinder. She'd seen them pull bodies from those rocks. No lifeguards now. Season had ended 2 weeks ago. Budget cuts meant no patrol until Memorial Day. Her phone was dead, had been for 3 days. The closest building with people in it was the hotel, 400 yards behind her. If she ran for help, they'd hit the jetty in 5 minutes, maybe less. The math was simple and terrible. The man went under, came back up gasping, still clutching the child. Amber's chest tightened, the old fear crawling up her spine like ice water. She was 12 when she nearly drowned. Summer camp, the year before grandmother Dorothy got sick. She'd jumped off a dock and her foot had tangled in an old fishing line underwater. She'd panicked, swallowed water, thought she was going to die right there. A counselor had pulled her out. She hadn't been in deep water since. 9 years of avoiding this exact moment. She looked at her shoes, her only pair, 3 months old, holding together with duct tape on the left sole. She looked at her backpack, leaning against the pier support. everything she owned in the world. She looked at the man and the child, now 60 yards from the jetty. 4 minutes, maybe less. The man went under again. This time he took longer to surface. When his head broke the water, Amber saw his face clearly. Older, maybe 50, exhausted, terrified. But it was the child's face that stopped her breathing. Something about it, the shape of the nose, the curve of the chin. She didn't understand why, but looking at that kid felt like looking in a mirror someone had aged backward. Her hand went to the locket around her neck. The old fear was still there, the water, the darkness, the certainty she'd drown. But something older and deeper was louder. Grandmother Dorothy's voice in her head. "Baby, when you see someone drowning, you don't think, you just reach." Amber kicked off her shoes, grabbed the broken boogie board half buried in the sand, took one breath that tasted like salt and old terror. She didn't think about what would happen after. Didn't wonder if they'd thank her. Didn't calculate the odds of all 3 of them surviving. She just knew that if she did nothing, if she let that child sink into the dark, she'd see that face every time she closed her eyes for the rest of her life. And a life haunted by inaction wasn't a life worth living. Amber ran into the water. The water hit her like a wall of ice. 58 degrees, October Pacific. Amber gasped, kept moving. Her arms burned after 20 strokes. The broken boogie board helped, but it kept twisting, trying to slip from her grip. She kicked hard, fought the current, surfaced, gasped for air. They were farther than she thought. The rational part of her brain was screaming, "Turn back, you're going to drown, this is stupid, you can't save them." She saw the man's head dip below the surface. Kicked harder. Muscle memory took over. Summer camp, 9 years ago, before everything fell apart. Grandmother Dorothy had paid for those swim lessons, said Amber was a natural. "You move through water like you were born to it, baby, like your mama." The memory pushed her forward. 30 more strokes, 20, 10. She reached them. The man was barely conscious, eyes unfocused, hyperventilating. "I've got you!" Amber shouted. "Don't fight me!" He didn't seem to hear. His arms flailed, still trying to hold the child above water. "Sir, look at me!" His eyes found hers, terrified, desperate. "My son," he gasped. "Take him first, please." The boy was limp in his arms, lips blue, not moving. Amber's training kicked in. Triage. She'd learned it at the food bank, volunteering for their emergency response program. The child was lighter, easier to move, but the man was drowning right now. She made the call, wedged the boogie board between them, grabbed the man's hand, forced it onto the board. "Hold this! Do not let go!" She looped her arm around the child's chest, started side-stroking toward shore. The man clung to the board behind her, kicking weakly. The child was small, maybe 60 pounds, but dead weight in water felt like twice that. Amber's shoulders screamed, her lungs burned. The current fought her every stroke. She focused on the beach, one stroke at a time. Breathe, kick, kick. As she adjusted her grip on the boy, something cold and metallic pressed against her arm. The man's watch. Expensive, heavy. She caught a glimpse of an engraving on the back but couldn't make out the words. They were making progress. Slowly. The shore was maybe 80 yards away. Then her left calf seized. Cramp, sharp and sudden, like someone driving a knife into her muscle. She gasped, nearly went under, forced herself to keep kicking with her right leg, dragged the left behind her. The boy suddenly convulsed, coughed, vomited seawater. Relief flooded through her. He's alive. But the movement made the man lose his grip on the boogie board. She heard him shout, turned her head, watched him sink. No. She couldn't hold both, couldn't dive with the child in her arms, couldn't let go of the boy to save the man. The impossible choice stared her in the face. Her voice cracked. "Kick! Kick toward me!" No response. The water where he'd been was empty, smooth. Amber's heart hammered against her ribs. Move now. She made the brutal calculation. Child to shore first, then back for the man, if he was still there, if he hadn't already drowned. She swam harder than she'd ever swum in her life, arms screaming, lungs on fire, the cramp in her leg spreading up her thigh. 60 yards, 50. The child stirred in her arms, made a weak sound. "Dad, he's coming, honey, stay with me." 40 yards, 30. She could see individual grains of sand now. 20 yards, her feet touched bottom. She stumbled forward, knee-deep water, dragging the boy with her. Laid him on the sand. He was breathing, shivering violently, but breathing. She didn't let herself think. Turned back to the water. The man had surfaced, barely, 30 yards out, arms moving weakly. Amber's legs were rubber, her whole body shaking from cold and exhaustion. She dove back in anyway. No boogie board this time, no help, just her in the water and pure willpower. The current tried to pull her sideways. She angled into it using the technique from those long-ago swim lessons, 20 yards, 15. She saw him go under again. No, not after all this, not now. She reached the spot, took a breath, dove. The water was darker below the surface, murky. She saw a flash of white. His shirt, grabbed his collar, yanked upward. They broke the surface together. He was barely conscious, not fighting anymore. Worse than fighting. She slapped his face, not hard, just enough. "Stay awake!" His eyes opened, unfocused. Then slowly they found hers. "My son?" "Safe. On the beach. Now swim." She looped an arm across his chest, started pulling him toward shore. He tried to help, kicked weakly. It was enough. 25 yards, 20, 15. Her vision was tunneling, black, creeping in from the edges. Not yet. Almost there. 10 yards, 5. Her knees hit sand. She dragged him into the shallows, up onto the beach next to the boy, both of them coughing, gasping, alive. Amber collapsed between them. The world spun, sky and sand trading places. She heard sirens in the distance. Someone must have seen. Must have called 911. A lifeguard truck pulled up. Off-duty guard, probably driving past. Saw the commotion. 2 paramedics rushed over. Their voices sounded like they were coming through water. "Ma'am, ma'am, can you hear me?" Amber tried to nod. Her head felt too heavy. "You need to sit still, you're hypothermic." They wrapped the boy in a thermal blanket. Then the man. Amber watched them work. Her vision kept blurring. The man was conscious now, sitting up, color returning to his face. He was looking at her. Not the normal way people looked at someone who'd just saved their life. Not gratitude, exactly. Something else. His eyes kept moving from her face to the locket around her neck. Back to her face, to the locket. Like he was trying to solve a puzzle, like he'd seen something impossible. A paramedic wrapped a blanket around Amber's shoulders. "Can you tell me your name?" "Amber Stevens." The man's head snapped toward her. His expression shifted. Shock, then something that looked like pain. "What did you say?" His voice was rough from the salt water, but there was an urgency in it that cut through everything else. "My name! Amber Stevens!" He stared at her. The color drained from his face again, and for a second she thought he might pass out. "That's not possible," he whispered. The paramedic leaning over him frowned. "Sir, you need to lie back down." But he ignored her, kept staring at Amber. "How old are you?" 19. "Why?" His hand went to his chest, to his own necklace. She hadn't noticed it before. A silver chain, with a pendant she couldn't quite see. And then, as the adrenaline drained away and shock set in, Amber realized she was shaking so violently she couldn't speak, which was fine, because she had no idea what to say to the man who was staring at her like he'd just seen a ghost. The paramedics insisted Amber go to the hospital. She refused. "I'm fine, just cold." "Ma'am, you were in 50-degree water for nearly 15 minutes. You need to be checked for—" "I said I'm fine." She wasn't fine. Her whole body ached. Her leg was still cramping, but hospitals meant bills, bills she couldn't pay, bills that would follow her forever. The paramedic sighed, made her sign a waiver. Amber's hands shook so badly she could barely hold the pen. The man was sitting up now, thermal blanket around his shoulders. His son was on a stretcher, conscious but quiet. Both of them would go to the hospital for observation. As they loaded the boy into the ambulance, the man stood, walked over to Amber. Up close, she could see him clearly for the first time. Late 40s, maybe early 50s, white, well-groomed even after nearly drowning. The kind of person who looked expensive without trying. His dress shirt was plastered to his chest, his slacks ruined, but the watch on his wrist probably cost more than Amber had seen in her entire life. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. His voice was steadier now. But his eyes were still doing that thing, searching her face like he was looking for something specific. "You don't need to thank me. You saved our lives." Amber shrugged. The blanket slipped from her shoulders. "Anyone would have done it." "No." His voice was firm. "They wouldn't have." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a wallet, somehow still there, waterlogged but intact. He opened it, started pulling out bills. Please, let me. No. The word came out harder than she meant it to. He paused. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I just want to help. I don't need help. It was a lie. She needed help desperately, but not like this. Not pity money from a stranger who'd forget her name by tomorrow. He put the wallet away slowly, looked at her for a long moment. At least let me give you my information, in case you need anything, medical bills or, I'm not going to the hospital. Then for anything else. He reached into his jacket pocket, the inside pocket somehow still dry, pulled out a business card, extended it to her. Amber hesitated, then took it. The card was heavy, expensive stock, embossed lettering. William Hartford, Chief Executive Officer Hartford, Global Enterprises. There was a phone number, an email, an address in downtown Los Angeles. She looked up at him. You're a CEO? Yes. What were you doing on a boat at 6 in the morning in a business suit? Something flickered across his face. Sadness, maybe, or regret. Taking my son somewhere we could talk, away from distractions we needed. He trailed off. It doesn't matter now. A paramedic called to him. Mr. Hartford, we need to go. He nodded, looked back at Amber. Please, keep that card. If you ever need anything, anything at all. She slipped it into her pocket, mostly to make him leave. He started toward the ambulance, then stopped, turned back. Amber Stevens. Yeah? That's really your name? Your full name? The question was strange. Urgent. Yeah, why? He opened his mouth, closed it, shook his head. No reason. You remind me of someone. Who? He looked at her for a long moment. His hand went to the chain around his neck, the pendant she still couldn't quite see. Someone I lost a long time ago. Then he was gone. Climbing into the ambulance, the doors closing behind him. Amber watched the ambulance pull away, lights flashing but no siren. She looked down at the business card in her hand. William Hartford, CEO. She'd saved a rich man and his kid. They'd go back to their mansion or penthouse or whatever. She'd go back to sleeping under a pier. That was just how the world worked. She started walking back toward her alcove, didn't notice the way the morning joggers were staring at her, didn't see the person filming on their phone from the parking lot, didn't know that in 12 hours her face would be on the local news, and that William Hartford was sitting in that ambulance holding his son's hand, staring at his own necklace, a silver chain with a pendant that matched Amber's locket exactly, wondering if the impossible thing he was thinking could actually be true. Amber made it back to her alcove before the shaking got worse. She peeled off her wet clothes, changed into dry ones from her cart. Her only other outfit, jeans with a hole in the knee, a sweatshirt that said Santa Monica College that she'd found in a donation bin. The business card was still in her pocket, soaked but readable. She set it on a concrete ledge to dry. William Hartford, Hartford Global Enterprises. The name sounded familiar. She'd probably seen it on a building downtown. Rich people put their names on buildings. She lay down in her sleeping bag, exhausted. But sleep wouldn't come. Her mind kept replaying the rescue, the man's face when she'd said her name, the way he'd looked at her locket. You remind me of someone I lost. She touched the locket, opened it. The photo inside was barely visible, faded. A woman's face, young and smiling. Dark skin, warm eyes, Amber's eyes. Grandmother Dorothy had given her this locket on her 10th birthday. This is your mama, baby. She loved you more than anything in this world. Amber had been 4 when her mother died. Barely remembered her. Just fragments, a laugh, a song, the smell of cocoa butter. She closed the locket, closed her eyes, tried to sleep. 3 hours later, she woke to voices. She crawled to the edge of her alcove, peeked out. A news van was parked near the beach, a reporter in a blue blazer talking to the lifeguard who'd shown up that morning. Remarkable rescue by a local woman. Both victims are in stable condition at St. John's Medical Center. Amber's stomach tightened. She pulled back into the shadows. The last thing she needed was attention. Attention meant questions. Questions meant people would know she was homeless. That meant police. That meant being moved along, losing her spot. She waited until the news van left. Didn't know that the story was already spreading. A bystander's phone video, grainy but clear enough. Amber running into the water, pulling 2 people from the waves. Didn't know that in a hospital room 6 miles away, William Hartford was making phone calls. To his lawyers, to a private investigator, asking questions about a 19-year-old black girl named Amber Stevens who wore a silver locket and had eyes that matched a photograph he'd kept in his wallet for 20 years. Didn't know that the impossible thing he'd been thinking in the ambulance was becoming more possible with every phone call. And she definitely didn't know that her life was about to change in ways that would make the rescue seem simple. But she felt something. A shift. Like standing on a beach and feeling the tide turn. Something was coming. She just didn't know what. Amber spent the next 2 days trying to be invisible. The news story had aired. Local station, late-night broadcast. She'd seen it through a sports bar window. Local woman saves CEO and son from drowning. They'd used the bystander video. Her face was visible enough. A few people around the pier had recognized her. She denied it and walked away. On the third day, Miss Wilson approached her library table. "Amber, someone's here to see you." Her stomach dropped. "Who?" "William Hartford." The world tilted. "I didn't tell him you were here," Miss Wilson said quietly. "Should I say you left?" Amber's hands shook. "No, I'll talk to him." She didn't know why she said yes. Maybe because she'd been replaying his questions for 3 days. "That's really your name?" 30 seconds later, William Hartford walked into the reading room. He looked different. Dark suit, white shirt, composed, but his hands were shaking. He saw her, stopped, then walked over slowly like approaching something fragile. "Amber, thank you for seeing me. How did you find me?" "I asked around." She closed her laptop. "Your son okay?" "He's fine, thanks to you." He paused. "May I sit?" She nodded. He sat, placed his hands on the table. "I need to ask you something. Your mother, what was her name?" The question hit like cold water. "Why? Please." Amber's hand went to her locket. Sarah Stevens." His eyes closed, a painful breath. "She died when you were 4? How do you know that?" He opened his eyes. They were wet. "Because I knew her." The library went silent. "What?" William reached into his jacket, pulled out an envelope, set it between them. "After the rescue, I hired an investigator. I needed to know if what I was thinking was possible." "If what was possible? Open it." Amber's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside were photographs and documents. The first photo was old. A young woman, black, beautiful, laughing, wearing a silver locket. Amber's locket. "That's your mother," William said quietly. "Sarah Stevens. We met at UCLA. Dated for 2 years. Amber couldn't breathe. "We were young, in love. Then she got pregnant." The room spun. "My family didn't approve. My father threatened to cut me off. He said terrible things about her." His voice cracked. "I was a coward. I chose my inheritance, gave her money and walked away." Amber looked at the next document. A birth certificate. Amber Marie Stevens. Mother, Sarah Stevens. Father, blank. "I thought about her every day," William whispered. "Wanted to reach out, but I told myself she was better off without me." He pulled the chain from his neck. The pendant, a silver locket, identical to hers. "She gave me this when I left. Said if I ever wanted to know my daughter, I should look for the girl wearing the matching one." He opened his locket. A photo of a baby. Dark eyes, tiny hands. "That's you! 3 months old, only picture I have." Amber's tears fell. "When I saw you on that beach wearing that locket." He leaned forward. "Then you said your name, Amber Stevens. And I knew." She found her voice. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't sure. Because I was terrified. Because I didn't have the right after abandoning you." The third document was a DNA test. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. "How did you get my DNA?" "The hospital. Your waiver. The paramedics had your information." He shook his head. "I should have asked, but I needed to be certain." Amber stared at him. Her father. The stranger she'd saved was her father. "My mother," she whispered. "What happened?" Pain crossed his face. "The investigator found records. Car accident. You were 4. "I remember. Pieces. You went to your grandmother, Dorothy. She raised me. She died 2 years ago." His face crumpled. "I'm so sorry. If I'd known—" "You didn't want to know." The words cut. "True." He nodded. "You're right. And I'll spend my life trying to make up for it, if you'll let me." Amber looked at the documents. The proof. The father she'd never known had been drowning 50 yards from where she slept, and she'd saved him. I don't know what to say. You don't have to. Not now. He stood slowly. I needed you to know the truth. About who I am, who you are. He placed another card on the table, handwritten number on the back. My personal cell. Call anytime or don't. Your choice. He started to leave, stopped. You saved my life, Amber. Gave me a second chance I don't deserve. Whatever you decide, I'm here. I'm not walking away this time. Then he was gone. Amber sat frozen, staring at the photographs. Her mother's face. Her infant face in William Hartford's locket. Proof she wasn't alone in the world. Miss Wilson appeared with tissues. Didn't ask questions. Just squeezed Amber's shoulder. Amber opened her own locket. Looked at her mother's faded photo. Did you know, she thought. Did you know I'd find him? Is that why you kept bringing me to that beach? The childhood photo in her phone, taken at that exact spot. Her and grandmother Dorothy, building sandcastles 20 yards from where William Hartford's yacht would sink 19 years later. Coincidence? Or something else? She looked at William's business card, the handwritten number. One call could change everything, or she could throw it away, go back to her life, stay invisible. The choice was hers. For the first time in 2 years, Amber Stevens had a choice that actually mattered, and she had no idea what to do with it. Amber didn't call. 5 days passed. The card stayed in her pocket. The rescue video kept spreading. 50,000 views. 100,000. Comments calling her a hero. She hated it. On the 5th day, Miss Wilson approached her library table. He's back, with his son. Amber's heart jumped. Should I send them away? Amber thought about the locket, her mother. 20 years of silence. No, I'll talk. William stood when she entered the conference room, his son beside him, the boy she'd saved, maybe 10, light brown hair, nervous smile. Amber, thank you. This is Thomas. The boy extended his hand. Thank you for saving my life. You're welcome. They sat. William folded his hands. They were shaking. I know you haven't called. I understand. But I need to say something. Amber waited. I want to help, because you're my daughter. You're brilliant and you shouldn't be living under a peer. Her throat tightened. I've been researching. Your GED scores were perfect. You're taking college courses. Marine biology. He paused. Miss Wilson says you're one of the most determined people she's met. He opened a folder. Full scholarship to UCLA, any major. Housing, meals, expenses covered. Amber couldn't breathe. Admissions will accept you for spring semester. You'd start January, 2 months. So the offer includes immediate housing, an apartment in Santa Monica, 2-bedroom, furnished, safe. Yours today if you want it, yours through graduation. She opened her mouth. Nothing came. Thomas leaned forward. Dad's also setting up a trust fund for you. Thomas, William said gently. It's true. You said be honest. William nodded. He's right. A trust. What I should have provided 19 years ago. What your mother deserved. I can't accept that. Why not? It's too much. I don't know you. You don't trust me. His voice quiet. You shouldn't. I haven't earned it. I abandoned you. He leaned forward. But I'm asking for a chance. Let me try to be the father I should have been. Not just with money, by showing up, being present. I don't need a father. Maybe not, but you need an opportunity. Amber looked at Thomas. What do you think? The boy blinked, surprised. I think you're brave, and Dad's been sad forever. Since before Mom left. William flinched. Mom left? 2 years ago. Said Dad was always thinking about someone from his past. Thomas looked at her honestly. He was thinking about you. I know that now. William's eyes filled. I always wanted a sister, Thomas added, even if she's super old. I'm 19. Ancient. Amber almost smiled. William cleared his throat. One more thing. Hartford Global Foundation. We fund education programs, scholarships, community outreach. He slid another document across. I want you on the board. Paid position. You'd help decide which programs we fund, which students get scholarships. Real responsibility. I don't know anything about foundations. You know what it's like to fall through the cracks. That perspective is worth more than any business degree. Amber stared at the papers. Scholarship, apartment, foundation position, a life. right there. Why now? She whispered. Why not when I was 4 or 10 or 15? William's face crumpled. Because I was a coward. Because I believed my father's lies about your mother. Because I was 22 and scared of losing my inheritance. Tears fell. I can't change the past. Can't give you back your childhood. But I can give you a future. If you'll let me. Amber touched her locket. Thought about grandmother Dorothy, about concrete and cold nights, about collecting bottles and dreaming impossible dreams. I need time. Take all you need, a week, a month. And understand something. If I say yes, it doesn't make us family automatically. You don't get to be dad because you're offering money. Pain crossed his face. I understand. Whatever boundaries you need. But I'll think about it. Seriously. Relief flooded his expression. Thomas suddenly hugged her, quick and impulsive. I'm glad we almost drowned. Otherwise, we never would have found you. Amber's arms came up awkwardly. She held him. Over his head, she met William's eyes. Hope, fear, desperate love with nowhere to go for 19 years. Maybe this was crazy. Maybe she'd regret it. Or maybe the current that nearly killed them had actually saved them all. She pulled back from Thomas. One condition before I decide. Anything. I want to visit my mother's grave. With you. You need to meet her. Or meet who she was. William's breath caught. His hand went to the locket under his shirt. I would be honored. Tomorrow, 9 in the morning, I'll text you the cemetery. I'll be there. Amber gathered the documents, hands shaking. She walked out carrying papers that represented everything she'd dreamed of. Education, security, purpose, family, maybe. For the first time in 128 days, Amber Stevens didn't feel like she was drowning. She felt like she might actually reach shore and find something worth living for when she got there. The cemetery visit changed everything. Amber and William stood at Sarah Stevens's grave together. A simple headstone, fresh flowers that Amber brought every month when she could afford them. William knelt, placed his hand on the stone, wept like a man who'd been holding it in for 20 years. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Sarah. Amber didn't comfort him, didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't okay. But watching him break down at her mother's grave, she understood something. He'd been carrying this too. Different pain, but still pain. She would have wanted me to give you a chance, Amber said finally. She was like that. Always believed in second chances. William looked up at her. Really? Grandmother Dorothy told me. Mom forgave everyone, even people who didn't deserve it. He stood slowly. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve it. Don't try for her. She's gone. Amber touched her locket. Try for me. I will. 2 days later, Amber moved into the apartment. 2 bedrooms. Furniture that didn't smell like the ocean. A kitchen with a working stove. Heat. She stood in the living room and cried for an hour. Thomas helped her unpack the few things she owned, made it feel normal, made jokes about her ancient sweatshirt. William kept his distance, gave her space. But he was there. Steady. Present. The news story exploded a week later. Local reporter tracked down the full story. Homeless teen saves billionaire CEO, discovers he's her father, gets scholarship to UCLA. It went national. CNN picked it up, then CBS, then international outlets. Modern-day miracle, they called it, proof that kindness pays off. Amber hated the attention, but something good came from it. Donations poured into Hartford Global Foundation, thousands of dollars, then hundreds of thousands. People want to help, William told her at their first board meeting. Because of you. Because you showed them what's possible. The foundation expanded its scholarship program, tripled the number of students they could support. Amber sat in board meetings listening to proposals, learning, speaking up when something didn't make sense. The other board members listened, actually listened. We need more emergency support, she said at one meeting. Scholarships are great, but what about students who are homeless right now, who need immediate help? 2 weeks later, they launched the Stevens Emergency Fund, named after her mother, housing assistance for homeless students, immediate grants for food, medical care, basic needs. 30 students helped in the first month. The cafe owner, Mrs. Davis, saw Amber's story on the news. She showed up at the apartment one evening, knocked hesitantly. I'm sorry, she said when Amber opened the door. for letting you go. I was scared of liability, but I should have found another way. Should have helped. Amber invited her in, made tea. You did what you had to do, I understand. No, I could have done more, Mrs. Dunn. Davis pulled out an envelope. This is 3 months of back pay. What I should have given you as severance. You don't have to. I do. And I'm changing our policy, partnering with a housing nonprofit. We're going to hire people experiencing homelessness, train them, help them get stable. Amber took the envelope. Thank you. You inspired me, made me realize I can do better. Miss Wilson from the library called her. The city saw your story. They're increasing our funding, adding services for homeless patrons, computers, charging stations, employment resources. Her voice was warm. Because of you, Amber, you made them pay attention. UCLA's spring semester started in January. Amber walked onto campus as a student, marine biology major. Her first day, 3 students approached her. You're Amber Stevens, from the news. She tensed, expecting attention she didn't want. We're in foster care, one girl said. Aging out next year. We applied to the Stevens Emergency Fund. Just wanted to say thank you. You're giving us hope. Amber's eyes stung. You're going to make it, I promise. Thomas visited every weekend, insisted on it. They'd get pizza, watch movies. He'd tell her about school, about his friends who thought having a 19-year-old sister was cool. William came to her marine biology presentation in February, sat in the back, didn't announce himself. Afterward, he approached carefully. You were brilliant. You came. Of course I came. I said I'd show up. And he did. Every presentation, every milestone, not as a savior, not as the hero of the story, just as a father trying to make up for lost time. The rescue video hit 2 million views. Comments still poured in, but now they said something different. This is what happens when we help each other. One act of courage changed multiple lives. We need more Ambers in the world. Amber finally responded to one comment, wrote, we're all capable of this. You don't need to save someone from drowning. Just see people, really see them. Sometimes that's enough. The comment got 50,000 likes because people were hungry for hope. And Amber Stevens, who'd lived 128 days under a pier, had somehow become a symbol of it. Not because she was special, but because she'd done what anyone could do. She'd reached out when someone was drowning, and in saving them, she'd saved herself, 1 year later. Amber stood at the same spot where it all began, the water's edge at Santa Monica Beach, 5:48 in the morning. The sun was just breaking the horizon, painting the Pacific in blood orange. But this time she wasn't alone. Thomas stood beside her. William a few steps behind, giving them space. This is where you saved us, Thomas said quietly. This is where everything changed, Amber corrected. She'd graduated her first year at UCLA, top of her marine biology class. The Stevens Emergency Fund had helped 200 students. Her mother's grave had fresh flowers every week now. William made sure of it. They'd found a rhythm, not perfect, still awkward sometimes, but real. He wasn't Dad yet. Maybe he never would be. But he was William, and he was there. I have something for you, he said now. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a photo, old, faded. Her mother and William, maybe 22 years old, standing on this exact beach, both laughing. Both young and in love and unaware of everything that was coming. I found it last week, going through old boxes. His voice was thick. I wanted you to have it, to know that what we had was real, even if I was too weak to fight for it. Amber stared at her mother's face, so young, so alive. She looks happy. She was. We both were. He paused. Until I destroyed it. You can't change that. No, but I can make sure her daughter knows she was loved. By both of us. Amber slipped the photo into her jacket, next to her heart. A commotion down the beach caught her attention. An elderly man had collapsed. People were gathering, unsure what to do. Amber didn't think, just moved. She ran toward them, dropped to her knees beside the man, checked for breathing, started CPR. Someone called 911. She counted compressions, gave rescue breaths. Her marine biology classes included emergency response training. She'd insisted on it. The man gasped, coughed, his eyes opened. Paramedics arrived 3 minutes later. The man's daughter was crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. Amber stood slowly, hands shaking from adrenaline, walked back to where William and Thomas waited. You okay? William asked. Yeah. She looked at the ocean, at the place where she'd pulled him and Thomas from the water. Yeah, I'm okay. Thomas hugged her waist. You're like a superhero. I'm not. I just did what anyone should do. But most people don't, William said quietly. That's what makes you extraordinary. Amber touched her locket, felt the weight of her mother's photo in her jacket, thought about Grandmother Dorothy's words. When you see someone drowning, you don't think, you just reach. She'd been drowning for 128 days, and the person she saved had reached back, not with money or power or grand gestures, but with presence, with showing up, with choosing every day to be better. The sun climbed higher, a new day beginning. Amber Stevens watched the waves and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because her life was perfect, but because she finally understood something her mother had always known. Kindness wasn't transactional. You didn't save people because of what you'd get back. You saved them because it was right. And sometimes, if you were impossibly lucky, saving someone else meant saving yourself too. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you reached out to someone who was drowning, not literally, but drowning in life, struggling, invisible? When did you last stop and really see someone? Amber Stevens was homeless, surviving day by day, and she still found the strength to save two strangers. She didn't know who they were, didn't expect anything back. She just reached, and that one act changed everything. Not just for her, but for hundreds of students who now have hope because of the foundation she inspired. Your act of kindness doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to make the news. Sometimes it's just seeing someone, acknowledging them, offering help when you have nothing to gain. That's how we change the world, one reach at a time. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs hope today. And subscribe for more stories that remind us what we're capable of when we choose compassion. What's your story? Tell us in the comments below.